March 26th, Extreme Madness. Pro Wrestling 225 travels back to Columbia, Mississippi, the Columbia Expo Center. And it's there where we're going to settle one of the most personal rivalries in the history of Pro Wrestling 225. And it's all going to be over the Pro Wrestling 225 Heavyweight Championship. Corey Constantine defends against Likora inside a steel cage. The man with the longest reign in the title's history has the title once again. Congratulations, Corey Constantine.
Oh, and we got our new number one contender, Likora. Likora, the number one contender after winning the Rumble. And we know the history between Constantine and Likora. These guys need to be separated.
This personal rivalry began over a year ago, taking us back to March to Madness in Houston in 2021. The 2021 PW225 Match of the Year winner. Corey defended his heavyweight championship against Likora for the first time, and it ended in a draw. Did Corey tap out? Did Likora get pinned? Ultimately, the contest was ruled a draw. Likora left with the belt that night, but not before he threw Corey into a ring post with a steel chair wrapped around his throat. The two men clashed again at Bases Loaded in Tylertown, Mississippi, a last man standing match to try to determine the clear champion of Pro Wrestling 225. This time, Purple Haze returns and intervenes in the title match, causing a double countout and yet another draw. Super Gold 5, May 2021. Likora, Constantine, Haze, triple threat match for the title. Haze pins Likora, and Corey Constantine's historic title reign comes to an end to no fault of his own. Both men later that night compete in the Super Gold 5 Rumble, eliminating each other. And Corey walks out with some revenge, wrapping a steel chair around the throat of Likora and wrapping him around a ring post. Likora out for months. Constantine fights his way back, regaining the Pro Wrestling 225 Heavyweight Championship at Super Gold 6 against Purple Haze, becoming just the second two-time champion in the company's history. And on the same night, wouldn't you believe it, the winner of the Super Gold 6 Rumble, earning himself a shot at the title, Likora. And that brings us to March 26th. Extreme Madness, the Columbia Expo Center in Columbia, Mississippi. Constantine, Likora, inside a steel cage for the Pro Wrestling 225 Heavyweight Championship.
Corey! Cora, this has been going on for over a year. It's clear to me that you're obsessed.
I missed you, Corey!
I can't quite wrap my head around exactly why that is. Now, Super Gold, you decided that after I won the title and was having my moment that I've worked my ass off for, that you wanted to come and attack me from behind? I'm all for making a statement, and you know better than anybody that I don't back down from a fight.
You and me in the cage! Oh, it's gonna be so much fun!
So I find it very disrespectful that you didn't just face me man to man. And normally I wouldn't even bother looking at you because this is beneath me. But you made this personal. You got everybody else involved. You got Ray Fury involved, and he couldn't pull the trigger. We're going to settle this. March 26th, steel cage. It's you and me. There's nowhere to go. This ends in blood, in injury, or in death. This is over.
Welcome, Pro Wrestling 225 family. We are on the road to madness. I'm Spenser alongside Landon and Alexis Windsor, and it's our pick show for Extreme Madness, March 26th at the Columbia Expo Center in Columbia, Mississippi. And boy, do we have a huge show for you.
An incredible show. I mean, you talk about the intensity that Pro Wrestling 225 brings to the fans all across the Gulf South. This show is going to be in Columbia, Mississippi, where we have seen some brutal matches already, but nothing like what we're going to see at Extreme Madness.
Yeah, the stakes are high. The type of matches that we have, which we're obviously going to talk about, I have never seen in person before, and I am incredibly excited to see this at 225.
If you have not gotten your tickets to Extreme Madness March 26th, now's the chance to do it. You're not going to want to miss some of the best title matches we've ever had in the history of Pro Wrestling 225. We're coming off of a massive Super Gold 6, guys.
Very successful for some people.
For some people. And I do want to talk about that as we head into Extreme Madness. A couple of really massive changes in the very landscape of Pro Wrestling 225. One of them, of course, is we have a new heavyweight champion in Corey Constantine.
Absolutely. I mean, Corey Constantine getting back to the top of the mountain where he is so comfortable. He's made such a huge name for himself these past couple of years, but can he overcome the threat of Lucha Likora?
And the other massive change, as you all well know, Pro Wrestling 225 family, we've seen your comments, we saw your reaction at Super Gold 6, and we're with you. Team Michael White wins the Survivor match, and Michael White is now the official general manager of Pro Wrestling 225.
Who knows what can happen even between now and leading into Extreme Madness?
Exactly. Everything feels so completely up in the air and wild and completely unexpected because we don't know what we're going to get from Michael White as the new leader of Pro Wrestling 225.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that the three of us are sitting here right now. To be honest with you.
Agreed. Given that especially I didn't pick Team White to win.
I didn't pick Team White to win.
Yeah. It could have just been you sat here on your own.
I made a choice when we sat at this pick show for Super Gold 6, and I knew that even though Wild Thing had such a great team, and Wild Thing is the heart and soul of Pro Wrestling 225, Michael White was going to stop at absolutely nothing to pick up that victory, and he did. And we're going to talk about that throughout the course of our Extreme Madness show here as well today. But I had to pick Team Michael White because I know what he's capable of. And as much as we want to say Michael White's a coward or he doesn't know how to be a leader, that is one of the smartest men in Pro Wrestling 225, and you saw it at Super Gold 6.
The unpredictability factor that is now entered into Pro Wrestling 225 going into Extreme Madness is frightening.
And I think that, I mean, we always say maybe something like no news is good news, but the fact that we've not really heard much from Michael White since taking over from Pro Wrestling at Pro Wrestling 225 kind of makes me a bit nervous.
I was going to say the same thing.
I'm very nervous.
I wish ignorance was bliss.
Yes.
But in this case, it does feel like everything's a little tense.
Just kind of waiting. I feel
Right.
like we're just waiting for something to happen.
Well, we have a big show to get to for Extreme Madness. We're on the road to madness now towards Columbia, Mississippi at the
Well on the
Columbia
road.
Expo Center. Yeah, absolutely. But I just want to say one time before we flash forward is I want to flash back to Super Gold 6 and our pick show last time.
Yep.
Because Lexi, that's right, Alexis Windsor.
Yep.
3-1.
I know.
At Super Gold 6 on your picks. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Not only did you win out of the three of us, but you picked the correct winner of the Super Gold Rumble.
I know.
That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It's just knowledge, I think.
Do you think that's... I mean, you are sort of the inside scoop behind the scenes at Pro Wrestling 225. Do you think that helps you with these picks at all?
I think possibly. Just seeing, the intensity that people can bring, the determination that certain people have, and especially when we talk about Lucha Likora, like, that man just, leaves nobody left standing. As we saw in the Rumble itself.
Could not.
No man or woman standing.
Oh, no man or woman standing. Absolutely. Yeah. Your pick, Amaris Blair, a great showing, but Lucha Likora had no problem getting rid of glamorous
targeted
Amaris.
Her.
Oh, he absolutely
Which he said he was going to.
Exactly.
As well.
Which, that's the thing about Likora. As unhinged as he is, he's a man of his word.
Yeah.
And that makes him even more dangerous.
Yeah.
But you went 3-1. Both of us went 2-2. I think that we scratched the picks for Rhett and Wes Warren because it was a time limit draw, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But overall, that means you're 6-3 on the year. You are 3-1, right? That was your official first show.
For one show, that's really good.
Which makes you the leader in the clubhouse in terms of winning percentage.
Excellent.
So really, really well done.
Does that mean I buy drinks?
That it is now. That's exactly what that means. And then I also participated. So
did a great job.
Thank you very much. We tied at Super Gold, to be fair.
It's not about winning; it's about taking part.
You're exactly right about that, Alexis. So let's get
Except in wrestling.
Except in wrestling.
Yeah.
So let's get to Extreme Madness. Big card, lots of really heavy stuff. But one of the things I want to talk about first is we get a return to action. The former Pro Wrestling 225 Tag Team Champions, The Pride.
The Pride is such an incredible team to watch, and it doesn't matter who their opponents are going to be, they are going to eat them alive.
And I think they really have something to prove as well after losing those tag team championship titles at that 90s show. I feel that they just want to climb back up those rankings, get back to the top in terms of then being able to challenge for the title again against the Overboys.
Well, you have to do it quickly. This is the thing. Whenever you lose such a high-profile match, I mean, and they lost to a team like the Overboys. They have nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
But now they're hungrier than ever. And it's going to be really interesting to see what they bring to the table at Extreme Madness.
The Pride is a team always hungry, never full, right, Landon?
I like that.
Yeah, and they are such a cohesive unit. That's one of the things that as we were watching that 90s show, what a great match with the Overboys. And yeah, they were bested by the Overboys at that 90s show, but that's a team that's not going anywhere.
No, aggressive, ruthless, I would say as well. So
the deadly combination of Vladimir Koloff and Charles West, two guys that scream powerhouse, and whoever they step in the ring with at Extreme Madness is going to have their hands full.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%. We also have an SEC championship match taking place at Extreme Madness. And what's so fun about a show like Extreme Madness is they up the stakes just a little bit. And this match is going to be a ladder match.
Could you be more hyped for a triple threat ladder match at Extreme Madness?
ladder matches, I will just say this, are pretty much my favorite match.
What's not to love?
Yeah.
Right? And then the list of guys in this match. You got Wild Thing, who is rebounding off of maybe the most devastating defeat in the history of Pro Wrestling 225 at Super Gold 6. You've got JTM, a former SEC champion as well. All three men in this match have been SEC champion at one time. And then, of course, Rhett the Threat, the current champion, two-time SEC champion, who, after a great match with Wes Warren that ended in a time-limit draw at Super Gold 6, is now going to have to put his title on the line again in one of the most unpredictable match types you can imagine, that three-way ladder match.
Well, he does... I'm sorry.
This one has match of the year written all over it.
Yeah. I was just going to say, don't forget that Rhett has successfully defended his title twice already as well. So, he's coming into it on a fairly strong Yeah.
And that's something we've talked about a lot with Rhett the Threat, is that he is a defending champion, and he's done so successfully.
Yeah.
I am so interested to see, as Rhett the Threat now has been champion for 288 days.
Wow.
Yeah, he's been champion for, we're closing in, we're over halfway to the year mark. JTM, when he held the SEC championship, held it for 357 days, which is the second longest reign in Pro Wrestling 225 history, behind, of course, Michael White. So these are all guys with the pedigree to really make this championship mean something. And that's what I love about the SEC title, is that it's not a throwaway belt, right? This is a championship that means something, and you're going to have the best of the best in Pro Wrestling 225 vying for that championship at Extreme Madness.
If we had to pick somebody, I have to think it's got to go a match like this, where you have three extremely talented performers. They know what it means to be SEC champion. For me, it's got to go to the one who needs it the most, who wants that win more than anybody else. And the one man who needs this win more than anyone else is Wild Thing. I mean, after the really, really, really tough loss and everything that just slipped through his fingers at Super Gold, I can't see a scenario where Wild Thing doesn't get the SEC belt here.
Alexis?
Okay. So I also think that Rhett is really up there. He has that match against Wes Warren is one of the best matches that I have seen. And for it to end on a draw, and then the way that it ended, kicked him. Yeah, that happened.
Right
in the wedding tackle.
where did Wes Warren kick Rhett the
He
Threat?
kicked him in the wedding tackle.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's a very big Louisiana phrase.
Yeah, we're not on time.
So I really do think that Rhett has something to prove as well. Such an intense match, not the way that he would have wanted it to end, but I also agree that the person who has the most to lose potentially, the highest stakes, is Wild Thing. So I also am picking Wild Thing to come out as champion.
Well, and you mentioned the incredible match that Wes Warren had, and it went to a time limit draw. So technically, Rhett the Threat did not defeat Wes Warren.
Correct.
So why then would Wes Warren not be involved in this triple threat ladder match, I wonder?
That is a huge question that has to be on the minds of the Pro Wrestling 225 family, and it speaks to Michael White a little bit. Why is Wild Thing getting a championship match when Wild Thing is the one that lost the Survivor match at Super Gold 6? What does Michael White have in store? It's almost, going back to what you said, Alexis, it's almost everything is too quiet.
Yes.
Everything's too quiet. So what in the world is going to happen at Extreme Madness? You've got three combustible elements. This is a Rhett the Threat, like you said, who has something to prove, who is a defending champion, not one that's going to turn down a challenge, and he's got his hands full with JTM and Wild Thing. And I want to talk about JTM for a second. I know we haven't mentioned him, but this is a guy that, like I said, the second longest SEC championship reign in the history of Pro Wrestling 225, but it should be noted, he is maybe more dangerous than he's ever been as the leader of Disobey.
That's exactly right. We have seen Disobey get an ever important victory over the likes of Level X at that 90 show. And think about what that does for the confidence of a team like Disobey.
Well, and you think of why is JTM in this match? He and Brandon Collins, and Simon Phillips for that matter, all three of them were hugely pivotal members of Team Whiteout at Super Gold 6. So it makes all the sense in the world that JTM's being rewarded almost as being part of this triple threat ladder match.
Just like someone's like a little puppet master, just, having people play around and things like that. I don't know. There's a lot of elements here, I think.
A lot of elements.
And regardless of who wins, this is going to be an intense physical match. Whoever wins,
absolutely.
It's not going to be easy.
No, not at all. And just like you said, match of the year written all over it.
Yeah.
Rhett the Threat, Wild Thing, two of the most matches in Pro Wrestling 225 history. Does the heart of Wild Thing catapult him to victory? Does the relentless defense of Rhett the Threat catapult him to victory? Or does JTM and Disobey and the chaos that ensues in something like a ladder match, does that lend itself to a JTM victory?
Which I would think that only has the support of General Manager Michael White.
The more you mention it, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking JTM for all of those reasons.
I think that's a smart pick.
I do as well. I'm still sticking with mine because I am.
Yeah, and Wild Thing, of course,
Yeah.
Do you think that that's a little bit of vengeance? Like, wouldn't the Pro Wrestling 225 family love to see Wild Thing?
Absolutely.
And we know, Wild Thing, JTM, both of them would have a shot at becoming a 2-time SEC champion.
Absolutely.
And it would be a huge, huge moment. And not to take anything away from Rhett the Threat, none of the three of us picked Rhett. But in a situation like this with so many variables, it's hard to pick with the champion.
This is one that literally could go either way, and this is not just either way; it's any of the three ways.
Yeah. But can I say as well that if our pick Wild Thing comes out with a win, what a thorn in the side to Michael White, and what then is Michael White going to do in terms of upcoming matches for the then champion?
Absolutely.
Wild Thing.
It is making Extreme Madness a must-see show. Make your way March 26th, not that far outside of the 225, to the Columbia Expo Center in Columbia, Mississippi for Extreme Madness, the night that Pro Wrestling 225 goes extreme, and it's going to be worth every single second.
Absolutely.
We have a couple more matches to discuss, guys. One of them is a really good thing that you're here to discuss, Alexis Windsor.
Yes.
We have some very exciting singles action at Extreme Madness when Wes Warren, coming off of that time limit draw at Super Gold 6, goes one-on-one with Hunter Law.
So this is really stemming from, I'm sure you all saw, I know that you guys definitely did, the interview that I tried to get with Wes Warren when incredibly aggressive, very threatening, very intimidating, right up in my face. Hunter Law, gratefully, thank you, Hunter, stepped in and intervened, because who knows what would have happened if he hadn't have done that. And now, those two obviously clashed a little bit at that time, and now we have a match.
I shudder to think what would have happened had you been alone in a room with the cold-blooded Wes Warren, and had Hunter Law not been there to step in.
I mean, you guys saw thank you for having me join on commentary.
Absolutely.
But during Wes Warren's match against Rhett, he made eye contact. He picked me out there. Very intimidating.
He is as intense as they come in Pro Wrestling 225, and Hunter Law, as gracious and kind as he was to step in, sort of now might be paying the price for that move, going one-on-one with Wes Warren. And this is a Wes Warren, by the way, that's going to be pissed off after the time limit draw when he thought he had that match won for the SEC championship.
That's right.
That was just the second time limit draw in the history of Pro Wrestling 225, the other being Mustang Mike and Tyson Dean all the way at the beginning at the very first Super Gold.
Yeah.
So Wes Warren, as angry as he's been, how does this turn out for Hunter Law?
Absolutely. And, the interview that I tried to do with him, obviously as part of Goodspeed Entertainment has actually been calling for Wes Warren to be suspended as a result of his actions towards myself.
Yeah, and you think that's justified, don't you?
Absolutely.
But as justified as it is, I don't see that happening with Michael White being in a position of power.
Really well said.
Yeah.
Really well said. And that's just one of the many moving parts now that Michael White's in control that we don't know how they're going to turn out, and how guys like Wes Warren are going to get an upper hand, because there will be maybe no repercussions for things like that.
Yeah.
So trying to pick a winner in this match is a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
There's just so many elements at play. But given the streak that Wes Warren has been on, and given the focus that he's going to have going into this match after that time limit draw, I've got to pick Wes Warren.
Hunter Law is a guy that came into Pro Wrestling 225, challenged Rhett the Threat for the SEC Championship at Conflict to Acadiana in the second half of last year. Really great competitor all over the Gulf South, and someone that is able to win any and every match that he's in. But Wes Warren, that mean streak, not just a winning streak, but a mean streak of the cold-blooded Wes Warren, is enough for me to also say, I don't care who's across the ring from Warren. I don't know if it's going to end up pretty for anybody. So I'm going to go Wes Warren.
I wouldn't want to stand across the ring from Wes Warren.
No.
No, I stood outside the ring to Wes Warren, and that was enough.
That was enough.
Yeah, I had to direct him out of the Rumble, and
Right. And he didn't like that too much either.
not at all.
So how does it turn out? Does
This
Law have a
is-
chance here, or is this all Warren?
I mean, Lord definitely has a chance.
Yeah,
Let me
absolutely.
get that straight. Always has a chance. And I feel this is a really difficult pick for me because I feel very torn. Again, Hunter Law almost defending my honor in a way.
Absolutely, yeah.
I really, my gut wants to, like, my heart wants to say Hunter Law. My head is saying Wes Warren. My pick has also got to be Wes Warren because I just think the intensity, the aggression, the bad mood that he's going to be in and is in, I can't see anyone overcoming that.
Intensity abound at Extreme Madness, and maybe nothing more personal, nothing more intense than our main event. March 26th.
I'm excited.
The Columbia Expo Center in Columbia, Mississippi. Are you guys ready for just the second time in the history of Pro Wrestling 225?
Yeah.
We have a steel cage match.
Steel cage. So you put combustible elements inside of a cage, and the only thing they have left to do is explode. This is going to be such an incredible, intense, and violent match.
You talk about madness in a cage, that is those two.
This is it.
Yeah.
The Pro Wrestling 225 Heavyweight Championship will be on the line as Corey Constantine defends against the winner of the Super Gold 6 Rumble, Lucha Likora.
So this is, I don't know, not personal, that's not the word I mean, but going off what happened at our last show,
Yes.
at Super Gold, obviously the winner of the Super Gold Rumble, my pick, Lucha Likora, now up against the new Pro Wrestling 225 Heavyweight Champion, Corey Constantine, who I had to make that run in after our ref, unfortunately got knocked out.
Yes.
So this is going to be a clash.
Well, we've seen the kinds of matches that Corey Constantine and Lucha Likora have been able to come up with. What feud of the year last year, some of the best matches we've ever seen in Pro Wrestling 225. But can they recreate the magic inside of a steel cage?
But did we see, after the match, when obviously, Likora ran in and started beating Corey Constantine up
Absolutely.
immediately after winning the belt, ruining almost, his reclaiming of the title. This is personal. This is really personal. And the words that Corey Constantine gave at that time, I think, obviously emphasizes that.
Oh, you could cut the tension with a knife at the end of Super Gold 6. And that's why Constantine made no doubt about what he wanted to happen at Extreme Madness. He laid out that challenge for a steel cage match. And let's talk about Lucha Likora. I mean, you said it just now. Madness is the perfect word to describe this match in this ring. We know Corey Constantine has the ability to be just as mad as any other champion we've had. And Lucha Likora lives on madness.
Yes.
Like, that's where he stays. Have you seen Story Times with Lucha Likora?
I try not to.
Terrifying.
Exactly.
Unhinged and terrifying.
But we can talk all day about how these guys are playing mind games. But Lucha Likora, we've talked all show about the aftermath of Team Michael White winning the Survivor match at Super Gold 6. The reason Michael White, more than anything else, wins that match is because of Lucha Likora.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Likora had been eliminated from the match, inserts himself back in with the steel chair, and then 1, 2, 3, Michael White picks up the win. So, no surprise, Likora championship match at Extreme Madness. A huge, huge deal. And like you said, these are guys that have had absolute matches of the year last year and has never really had a clear winner between the two.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Which is really the most interesting part for me.
Yeah.
Is that now, steel cage, no escaping, no getting in, no getting out. We're going to have a definitive winner.
Yeah.
March 26th.
Yeah. These two really have a score to settle when it comes down to it.
And when it comes to actually picking who's going to walk out of that cage with the Pro Wrestling 225 Heavyweight Championship, it's a really, really tough call.
That's what this whole card has been toss-up after toss-up.
We say this every show.
But, I mean, that speaks to the quality of competition in Pro Wrestling 225, we're not walking around and seeing champions hold on to the belt for 1,000 days because they don't have any worthy competition. We are seeing singles matches, tag team action, triple threats, ladders, steel cages, all of them. It's a who's who of who's gonna win. And that's why I'm so bad at these pick shows.
Corey Constantine is going to have to go through his amalgamation of personas to find the one that is the most ruthless, the most unforgiving, and the most vengeful, to be able to walk out of that cage with his life against a guy that is just so crazy. He's absolutely out of his mind, Lucha Likora.
Yeah.
And so I think, but Corey Constantine does have that side of him. We've seen it before, and I believe we will see it again. And I believe Corey Constantine walks out of March Madness as the champion.
I think we saw it in the last match at Super Gold against Purple Haze. We saw it certainly at the end of that match.
Yeah.
When he made the challenge to Lucha Likora, and all the history that these guys have between them. And you mentioned how unhinged Lucha Likora is. I remember the show when he basically put him inside a steel chair and rammed him into the ring post. Potentially life-threatening injuries from that. But my pick also is Corey Constantine. I do think that it's going to be an incredibly intense, tough, brutal match between the two of them. But I don't think that now Corey Constantine has regained this championship, he is going to let that get away from him.
It's almost easy to forget that the biggest prize in Pro Wrestling 225 is on the line because of the intense personal rivalry between Likora and Constantine. This is a match that has been over a year in the making. We're finally going to have a clear, decisive winner, and that winner gets to walk out with the title.
Yeah.
But Corey Constantine is going to have to bring out all those things. Just like you said, Landon, he's going to have to bring out that side of him that maybe reaches those dark places that he wants to forget about. The problem is that when he goes there, Lucha Likora will just feed off of it. Likora is a guy that feeds off of pain. You think a steel cage scares a man like Lucha Likora? I don't think so. This is an environment where he will thrive. And because of that, after coming off a win in the Survivor match, after coming off a win at the Super Gold Rumble, Corey fought so hard to get the championship back. But I don't see a way where he's going to be able to climb this mountain, because I think Likora is going to climb this cage and come out of Extreme Madness as the new Pro Wrestling 225 heavyweight champion.
And just to think about what that would mean for the future of Pro Wrestling 225 with Lucha Likora as your champion and Michael White as your general manager.
And if we have JTM
as the SEC champion.
Oh my gosh.
This could all very well happen at March Madness.
And just to say, I get what you're saying about Lucha Likora, but I also think that this type of match, this type of madness, Corey Constantine also thrives off. Don't forget that he was the one that made this challenge to Lucha Likora. I think that this is what he wants, whichever of his personalities that is that wants this, but he does want this. He has something to prove, and he wants this to end once and for all against Lucha Likora, and still that's why he's my pick.
It all comes to a head. March 26th, Extreme Madness at the Columbia Expo Center in Columbia, Mississippi. You've got time to get your tickets just a couple hours away from the 225 area in Baton Rouge. It's going to be worth the drive. We've got the huge Hunter Law West Warren singles match, the Pride and tag team action, the ladder match, triple threat for the SEC championship, and the epic conclusion to the Constantine Likora rivalry inside a steel cage for the Pro Wrestling 225 Heavyweight Championship. Landon, Alexis, great picks. I can't wait to see that I went perfect this time and left you guys in the dust.
I don't think so, no.
Although, for my sake, I don't know, with Michael White in charge, if I want to be right about some of these picks, to
Yeah.
be super clear. But it's going to be a great, great show. We can't wait to see you there at Extreme Madness.
We're going to settle this. March 26th, Steel Cage. It's you and me. There's nowhere to go. This ends in blood, in injury, or in death. This is over.